Good day, open hearts, and thank you for being here at Ixchel Energy. I wanted to talk to you today about the thinking and the feeling. Every time we have a thought, every time we have an emotion, and this again is in my experience. I'm not talking about anybody else's experience, just mine. Every time we have an emotion or we're thinking something, we create an energy, a frequency. So we create a vibration. So what every thought you ever had is out there. It's definitely out there. It cannot be destroyed. It's out there, and it's matching the same vibration. So that's why I always say, please parent your thoughts. Parent what you're thinking. Be mindful of what you're creating, because even if you just sit in a chair for 10 hours and don't move, you're creating with your thinking, with your thoughts, and you're creating with your emotions. Okay, now the emotions, this is the other thing. I always tell you to question your thoughts. Okay, questioning, inquiry, self-inquiry, because when you have an emotion that doesn't feel right, that feels that it brings you down, is because there is a thought that you had before that emotion that is contradictory to who you truly are. Okay, that it doesn't match your true self. So that creates an emotion that is going against your organic nature. So that's what I said, you always ask. Don't take it as face value just because the thought is in your mind and your emotion is through your body. You acknowledge that you have the emotion. You say, I can feel anger being present. I can feel shame present. And then you ask, what would I be thinking? What thought I need to have in order to create this emotion? And just ask, is this true? And usually said, it's true because I am feeling it and I create the emotion. Can I make sure that this is truth? And I'm like, yes, I'm seeing it. Let's say, I'm going to give an example because I'm not very good with words. I'm better with examples. But this is, you are in an office setting and you are told constantly, you're not doing enough, you're not doing enough, you're not doing enough. You got to work more, you got to produce more, you want numbers, getting the numbers up. So there comes a time then you feel that you yourself as a person are not enough. And that thought creates an emotion of shame because you're not enough, you're not measuring up. An emotion of sadness, an emotion of fear, you're gonna lose your job, and all these very heavy negative emotions that just began with that thought that you're not enough, because this was in this situation, it was an information coming into your field by another person, and this other person might be from that person or might be somebody on top of that person. That's how hierarchies work. There's somebody on top, and the information comes down. But at the end of the day, I just want you to remember, everything is just that. It's information. That's all it is. So the information that you're not doing enough, you're not enough, it starts building up a thought that you're not enough. And then that creates the feeling, and you feel like, the way I feel it, I always try to have my light bright, right? It's a big flame. And then when this thought begins and the emotions start following that thought of train of thought, the flame begins to get smaller and smaller and smaller. So I feel my flame, just tiny little flame, almost barely there. So that's when I used to go and navigate hours and days and weeks with that flame, until you start, I began questioning, why do I feel like that? And how does this emotion begin? Oh, it began with this thought that I have, that I am not enough, that I'm not doing enough, that I am not producing enough. But then, I see, where is this thought coming from? Is it mine? Well, it's not really mine. So this is my thought process. I'm just sharing with you because maybe it will help you. This is not mine. It was given, it was offered to me, because everything is just energy being offered to you. So this is information that was offered to me by this other person. Let's say it was your boss, and it's given to me. So is it true? Well, I think it's true because I see it every day, or every time I see the boss. So I see it's truth. So what is the reality of it? I see the reality that this person, the boss, let's say she or he, thinks that I am not producing enough. So that is the reality of that, you know, what he thinks and what his feel is telling him. However, is that true to me? No. The reason we feel really crappy, you know, you feel, and pardon me, you feel like shit, is because it's not truth. You are actually trying really hard and striving to do more and more. And that's when the disconnect is, because you are actually trying to work hard, but the other person continues to say you're not enough. So then you look at the situation, you know, what is presenting, and you realize, yeah, this is truth, but is it my truth? No, it is not my truth. It is the truth of this person that comes into your field to demand that this change happen. But as you and I know, we cannot make anybody do anything that they don't feel it goes with their nature. Otherwise, the person is going to be in resistance. So I start thinking, well, that is the reality of my boss, this person. And whatever universe my boss handles and manages and lives in. But it is not my reality, because in my reality, I work enough. I am worthy of everything, and I work my ass off, and I come in with the best intention, with the best skills that I can bring to the table, and that is that. So their reality, my reality, is not matching that. So now I have a choice. Do I go and keep running into this cage, like, you know, one of those little mousy thingies that go around and around, like in those little wheels, with the story that I am not enough, that is being offered, you know, in the field from this. This is what I call the false field. It's false because I feel resistance. It's not organic. It's not me. However, I cannot deny it because it is happening. It's there. So it is true. It's real. It's right there in front of me, but it doesn't, but it's not my organic feel. So I see it as the false reality, and I allow it, let it be. However, I am the owner, the sovereign being of my field. This is my corner of my universe. This is where I govern. My field is my universe. And in my universe, I work hard enough and I earn everything. And if I want to work harder, I can work harder. But if I want to pace myself, I can pace myself. But do I feel that I'm not enough, or I'm not worth it, or no? So, you know, that's my thought process. So I allowed my boss to run around in this little circle because that is his universe, and I have no authority there. However, I have authority in my field, and I allow myself to get out of this cage and stop running around with the knowingness, the peace of mind and heart that I know that to the table I always bring the best I have, and I always do the best I can, and I don't have to defend that because it's shown with whatever I do. So I own that. It's a knowingness I have. It's not something I think or I feel. Is more than that, because it's a combination of what I think and what I feel, and it becomes a knowing that I feel it through my entire body. So I can walk with that, all right? So then what happens is all this show is happening, and I am a sovereign being of my field. It doesn't affect me as someone that is not claiming responsibility for their field and claiming ownership and sovereignty over the field. So you can handle yourself, your power to your boss and say, here, yes, you're right. I am a piece of shit. I don't feel good. I'm not worth it. I'm not doing enough. But so that's a game you can engage. But I got tired of it. So that's why I started questioning my thinking, because the emotions that I was experiencing were based on my thoughts, not the thoughts of my boss or the thoughts of your mother or the thoughts of your daughter, were 100% based on your own thoughts. The thoughts on my head were producing the emotions that I felt when I was in that situation. So I had to handle my thoughts to change the emotions and change from the inside out what I was experiencing without changing my boss or my mother or my daughter or, the neighbor or whatever. So that's what I said. You question, you ask, inquire, self-inquiry. Where is this thought coming from? And sometimes there are layers and layers and layers. This is just a small thing, that I feel like a lot of us have been, experiencing in an office or factoria, because we all, I don't know, I did a lot of factory work. I have done all kinds of jobs, and in all kinds of jobs, you experience that. You're not doing enough that translates into you are not enough. But it doesn't matter. Nothing matters other than what you have here and translates here, and you are the owner of how you can handle this. Okay, this is your field, and as your field becomes stronger, you can grow it. Okay, because then you can grow your field, 10 feet, you can grow your field a couple of blocks, you can grow your field the size of the country, the size of the planet, and then bring it back in, grow it. So that way you have your field cleans, you can bring it up all around the building that you work. And you also have to understand whatever size your field is, everything that is inside this field, you have to understand, you have to accept that exists. You might not like it, but you have to accept that it exists. Like your boss walking around, running around, telling everybody you're not doing enough, you're not doing enough. You can't be in opposition to that, because that is the reality of it. You can see him walking around. So what you do is you expand your field, respecting that everything that is inside your field is without judgment, without passing judgment. They just are. It just is. And you are in charge of what is happening here, what is happening here, and from this, and then all your power centers of your body and all the other bodies begin creating a different reality. And it just moves from there. So I hope that was not so complicated. So I hope, using an example of like the factory work or an office work, is a little easier to comprehend, because I feel that the energy now is going to wrap up again in a couple of weeks. We might have a couple of, maybe 2-3 weeks of a little bit of an ease, but it's going to wrap up again. And I want you to make sure that everything that comes to your awareness is just information. Nothing is here to attack you, to hurt you, to blame you. Nothing is pure information, and you can take it and translate it the way you want it. Okay? And you are a sovereign person of your own field. Thank you so much for coming with an open heart and an open mind. Thank you for share, subscribes, and likes. Thank you for visiting at ixchelenergy.com. Send me questions if you like from the website. Thank you so much for coming. Remember, you are the angels. We are the angels. Divine blessings. Namaste.